Now, growing up through, the Catholic schools you went to, you still didn't have any thoughts of becoming a priest, huh?
Yeah, neither from parents or family. I mean, no one in my family is a priest, or from the school. Like somehow that question about vocation just never got brought up. I think that maybe at certain points in high school, people insinuated because I did well on a religion test
Uh-huh.
or because I was involved in the parish in certain ways that like, hey, maybe, but it would stop at that. It was like, hey, maybe, and then there'd be this dramatic pause and we'd move on. So
So there was no hard sell.
no.
Nobody pulled you aside and, hey, have you really thought about, because Father Dad does that at St. Faustina all the time.
Yeah.
You think he's still the vocation director after.
That's great. I am so grateful. Father Dad, thank you for doing our work in your parish. So,
But none of that for you.
no. And, there was a time in my life, I think probably from middle school on, where things just they were probably not like pleasant at certain points in my life. And like I was being bullied and life at home was really rough. And, like parents and their marriage was kind of like tension. And as an only child, you just pick up all that stuff. There's not a lot of other people to absorb some of this stuff. So I guess like all those things kind of came together, and I really started drifting away from God during those years, which was really a shame.
Was it your high school years mainly?
Middle school and high school, yeah.
Okay.
And it was only back in college when I really started having to make some life decisions for myself. Like mom and dad aren't there to tell you what to do. Then I think I began to really, at least begin to decide to take the faith seriously and make it my own. But otherwise, I think that's part of the problem, is that not only were people not selling the vocation idea to me, or even discernment, but then I was also kind of not listening to God during those times. And, I just kind of noticed that in some ways, my life from the outside probably would have looked pretty good, pretty committed, student at a Catholic school. I am a rule follower, so to a large extent, like my mom's like discipline is still like in my head. I can hear her voice, kind of thing.
Was she very traditional while you were growing up?
I think
very strict parent.
She was strict, and at the time, it was a cause. Not a cause for rejoicing. I was probably upset and rebellious or whatever. But later on, I realized, like, I'm really glad that, to a certain extent, that she did what she did.
It's what you needed.
Yeah, to stay out of trouble. God knows that.
Was there any point where you really got into trouble, where things were pretty dicey?
No, I mean, she was always afraid that I was going to like fail out of school. I don't know why that was her fear, but my grades were never bad at all. Sometimes she could tell, like I'm a smart student, and I stopped trying, and I think she could just tell like my bad grades or like my mediocre grades were just a result of like zeros because I didn't turn in the work, kind of thing. So there were moments like that, and I think. She probably knew I was just like this angry teenager simmering under the surface. But on the surface, I went to like youth group and things like that.
Okay.
And so, those two things, maybe just no one really kind of pushing the idea of vocational discernment, and then my heart being kind of far from God, and maybe like family life not being the greatest. They just all kind of, it's a toxic stew that I wouldn't have found my vocation at that time, even if God had shouted at me.